Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Just having a sit out lunchtime. Glass of wine, Mojo, butterfly, large white. And it dawned on me that most of the plants that I've added were gifted, and some of them I've never had before. So they're a novelty. They're new. Some I've had before from other places, but like the geraniums. I've had geraniums before, but the geranium I had before around my other house was very much like our wild geranium, which is cranesbill basically, and a bluey colour. But I've now got several different types of geraniums thanks to people that have gifted stuff. I've never grown herbs before. Now I bought these weren't gifted, but there's 3 different types of marjoram in there and chives. They all seem to be doing very well, and the bees like them, which is partly what most of the planting I'm getting in is geared up to bees and butterflies and hoverflies and the things that like nectar and pollen. But I mean, the planted border along here, the garden I had at the other place, I couldn't grow ferns. It was a sun trap. It was in the sun virtually all day. Ferns were no good. Now I've got quite a few different types of ferns. I like ferns. I did have violets round the other place. I didn't have elephant's ears. I had one type of hellebore. Now I've got several different types. The ferns from Helen, the large one at the back there, it's suffering. Basically, it hasn't had chance to get a good root system prior to being in the sun. Nonetheless, it's not dead. It's actually got new growth coming up at the base there. So it will recover. It will be fine. And next year it'll be wonderful because it will have a good root system, which it will produce in the autumn, strangely enough. But the things that I've got in here, Aquilegias, I didn't have round the other house. Phlox, Michaelmas daisies, I didn't have those round the other house. I've got snowdrops here, which I did have. Bluebells, which I didn't have. Foxgloves, which I did have. What else have we got tucked away in here? Primroses, I didn't have any primroses round the other house. Now I've got quite a lot. In fact, I've got an awful lot. I've got wisteria. Well, I never had that round the other house. I can see why. I had a fuchsia round the other house in a pot. They never did very well. Crocosmias I had in a house a long time ago, but not the previous house. And these are showing a nice splash of colour. These are gorgeous. The bushes that I inherited, they were already here. I certainly didn't have bamboo around the other house, and I wouldn't have dreamt of ever incorporating it into a garden unless it was in a pot. But I'm stuck with it here. It doesn't belong to me. It came with the house, so I'm stuck with it. All I've got to do is try and control it. If I ever had a choice starting a garden from scratch, it would have no ivy in it. Not even the decorative type. Nothing. I would not ever have ivy in a garden ever again. It's just too much trouble. This came from the other house, my Acer. I don't think I'd ever have a garden without an Acer in it. That's good stuff. Various evergreens, they were all here. This is older, I believe. And an oak tree attempting to grow, and every time it does it gets hacked. And then over here in the gravel beds, apart from the forget-me-nots and the lavender, all of this is new. I haven't had any of this before. It's all something that I've bought in, the herbs, the thyme. All this ground cover is new to me, and some is doing better than others. Some of it just seems to keep coming up in very strange places, and I didn't plant it there. Never mind. Laurel is something, if I started a garden from scratch, I wouldn't have any. It's vigorous. and it attracts wasps, which wasps are pollinators. We shouldn't poo-poo wasps. They are useful pollinators, but they're damned annoying if they start hanging around your barbecue. The bush up in the corner there I still believe is orange blossom, but we're never going to find out this year. But it's been pruned in such a way that in theory next year we will get blossom, if it's orange blossom. And if we do, then we can find out definitely. Buddleia I've had before. My bonsai, obviously half of them came with me, half of them have been got since. This Himalayan honeysuckle I'd never heard of. I had to ask somebody what the hell it was. It's interesting. I'll leave it at that. It's interesting. And it was discovered. It was growing, and I said to Hannah, you need to trim that back. She was doing some pruning, and she said, did you know it's actually in a pot? And I said, no, I didn't. I said, if it's in a pot, try and drag it out, we'll move it somewhere better. When she dragged it out, the pot disintegrated, so it had to be repotted in a more substantial pot, which it is now, and it's growing well. Blooms all over the place, and some types of bees seem to love it, others don't go near it. Oof, right, where are we? As I said, bamboo I wouldn't go near ever again. Camellias, this is the one we discovered trapped in the middle of the bonsai bamboo, and it's grown quite well this year. It's put on a lot of growth. We will get blooms on that next year. It's a nice bright red, so that should look good. This palm, again, it belongs here, it's not mine. I'm not sure I would have that, you know, in a garden by choice, and the reason is why I've got 2 holes in my hand that bled for about half an hour when we were doing the work here. That's the reason I wouldn't have it around. It's vicious, absolutely vicious, and if you put your hand in, nothing happens until you try and pull your hand out, and then it gets you. So I wouldn't choose to have that. What else have we got tucked round this corner? This is some more spiky bush stuff, Pyracantha. I got a man in to deal with the tree that it had become and take it down. It's heading towards that way again, so I need to get in there and take that down, make it nice and level. And there's a bit in there that was missed. When I said, can you take that down to ground level, there was a bit he missed. So all this that's coming out here needs to come off, and it will always have to be pruned back and just kept under control. The trouble with it is it's vicious. Again, razor sharp thorns, and if you get one of these thorns in you, it immediately snaps off and the point stays in. Pain in the whatnot. What else round here? Coming round here, we've got the new plant that I got that I'd never heard of, which is Coreopsis. Never heard of it, but it has nice flowers. They're relatively short-lived, but it keeps, you know, you deadhead it, it produces more. Then we got this from Carol, Helenium. Never heard of it, but look at that. It's absolutely stunning. These have only just opened. You can see they start like that, progress through here, to here, to here, and then to this. And even this isn't fully opened yet, because the centre will open out, and then presumably it'll be happy for the bees and things to come. And in that pot is creeping Jenny, and cuckoo flower, which is a native wild flower. It's quite rare in places around the country. In other places there's quite a lot of it. Likes damp meadows. But I've got some in that pot, and hopefully it'll come up again next year. That I don't know, but I'm assuming it will. The Geum was a new discovery last year, never heard of it. It's a perennial, it will come up each year. and it looks like each year it's going to look worse, because it's nowhere near as good as it was last year. And then we've got the red valerian, which is not a true valerian, which is not this colour at all. This is a new plant. I've seen it everywhere. I've seen it growing out of walls, you know, the stone walls on churches, along roadsides, and it's always got butterflies and bees on it. Mine doesn't seem to be working so well. But yeah, another plant I've never had before. Came from Carol. It's a native plant. It's producing seeds. They're wind blown, so I don't know how many of them are going to take root. I was hoping it would have dropping type seeds so that they would all take root here and I'd have a nice big fat clump. But we shall see. Sedum, again, this grows out of walls and can be found in all sorts of places. It's going to be in bloom soon. I've never had any before, but I've got it now and I'm enjoying it. The hybrid begins with an S. Scabious, I'll get there in a minute. The wild version of this has always got bees all over it and occasionally butterflies. This is a hybrid version of it, and it is attracting both bees and butterflies, so it's doing okay. Buddleia again. This was the Achillea. Never heard of it, never had any before. It's a new one on me, and it seems to attract hoverflies more than anything else, but it's doing okay. It was supposed to go in the gravel beds, but I'd sort of run out of ideas of where to put it, and I had a spare pot, so it went in a pot. Over here we've got rosemary. I had rosemary at the other place and ended up letting it grow, and it got all woody and tatty and it looked awful, so it wasn't a nice plant. This one I'm looking after. It's been allowed to grow this year. We've got all that lovely growth here, nice greenery. You touch it, instantly smells of rosemary. Really strong, beautiful herb this is, and it grows into a shrub, not like many herbs. Most herbs are sort of flippy floppy, delicate type stuff. This is beautiful, and all of this new growth this year got pruned last year, so we didn't get many blooms. All of this will be next year's blooms, so it's not going to get touched. After it blooms, we'll prune it hard back and it will do this again next year. You learn these things as you go along. I didn't know that, so I got it wrong. Lavender, and bees come and go on this frequently. They really like it. Buff-tailed or white-tailed bumblebee. And then we've got this perpetual wallflower. I'd never heard of that sort of thing. Wallflowers for me was something that you buy in the autumn and you plant them and they bloom in the spring, and then you pull them up and chuck them out. But to have one that grows continuously and produces blooms throughout the year, quite honestly, because it produces a lot of extensions with tall blooming spikes in the spring and on into early summer, that you need to then cut off or it goes to seed. But then it still produces short ones with blooms on prior to it, you know, going right down and stopping growing. Yeah, and over here we've got ground cover things that have been put in. None of these I've had before. Primroses, violets I've had before. All the other types of ground cover, you know, the rose, what's it called? Rose something or other. Those grey coloured, grey-green leaves on that plant, if it ever blooms, it has really tall spikes with beautiful deep red blooms on. But so far I've got some good plants. They're growing well, but I haven't had any blooms yet. I've got some weeds in there as well. I'm going to have to get out of that. And the thing with the veined leaves and the names go, I'm afraid. It's just the memory's not good. It's getting old and tired like me. But there's lots of things growing in the garden that I haven't had before, and so they're a novelty. And it's mainly the ground cover and things that I've always wanted that either Carol or Helen provided. I mean, Carol provided a wealth of primroses and primulas. You know, I mean, this is going to be an absolute mass of primroses next year, and various other things. So some things were inherited and some things have been gifted, and a few things I've bought myself. And some of the things I've inherited I'd prefer not to have, like the ivy, the laurel and the bamboo. But I'm stuck with them. They're not mine, they don't belong to me, they belong with the house. So I'm stuck with them. But I've tried to work with them and grow things in amongst them to sort of enhance what's already here, because there's not much I can do about what's already here. I'm stuck with it. But I can add other things in and still make the place look nice and feel comfortable, and it's a calm place to be, this garden. Except at 2:30, not last night, the night before, at 2:30 in the morning, next door's kids came out and played in the splash pool, making a ridiculous amount of noise, screeching and laughing. 2:30 in the morning. That would have woken up the whole neighbourhood, because it's warm at the moment, people have got their windows open. You know, that noise would have gone over to those people, the people you can't see. And okay, the kids are having fun, I've got no problem with that, but where's the authority? Where's the discipline? Where's the respect for your neighbours? It's just missing, it's just not there. I've got to the point now where the kids next door are becoming annoying, and I'll be glad when they're gone. I could get worse. Sometimes, you know, you have to stop and think, yeah, we could get worse next time round. But since they split up next door, I think it was the lady that had the, you know, the sort of discipline and, you know, order in the house. And since she's gone and the bloke's here on his own, there just isn't any. I think he just lets them do what they bloody like. But 2:30 in the morning, screaming and shouting and laughing, and right under my bedroom window. It's not funny. So I've gone right off them next door, right off. Still, again, if you rent a place, you're stuck with it, and even if you buy a place, you're stuck with your neighbours. You don't get to choose them. The answer? A property that's in the middle of nowhere. The middle of nowhere, literally. If you can see a neighbour with your binoculars, they're too damn close. Yeah. Right, so I'm off back indoors now. It's just a quick look round, looking at some of the things that have come into the garden that I've never had before. You have to sort of look them up, see how they grow, see how to prune them in some cases, and it's doing okay. And I think when I get the shed done and the fence done, it's going to finish it off and sort of tidy up that whole corner, which is, you know, I like to come and sit out here over lunchtime or early evening, and it looks really tatty at the moment, so I need to get on with that. And this week may be when I start it. I just need 2 or 3 days of guaranteed no rain, and then I will probably get on with it. It's not going to take me long. It will go over a couple of days to get it done, but each individual coat on the shed and the work with the timber to block the hole up and everything, it's not going to take too long. So it's just a matter of cracking on with it, really. And yeah, the last of the visible foxgloves turns out to be a white one, which is nice. I love foxgloves, and so do the bees, and if the bees like them, then so do I. This is our native foxglove here. It's full of seeds and still got some blooms up the top. If I can get my foot in there. If If you look in here, seeds. They're tiny for such a big plant, but they will all disperse. The majority of them, 90% of them, won't germinate, but 10% probably will, and we will have an absolute mass of new foxglove seedlings down here, which, if this genuinely is the wild version, this is it now. It's flowered, it will die back, so we need some seedlings to replace that one. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And just a chat and a walk around. And see, we got my Cymbidium orchids live outside for the summer. They can only stay out here while the weather's reasonable. And as we go into autumn, the cooler nights, I'll have to keep my eye on them. And you know, if there's any threat of dropping down below sort of 7 or 8 degrees, then they'll have to come back indoors. But they're all growing well. They are enjoying being outside this year. Masses of new growth, like this. Yeah. New growths everywhere. Lots of new growths. And they're still producing new growths. They're still coming up. So unfortunately we've had quite a bit of on and off rain at the moment, which means they haven't had any feed, because if they're soaking wet, to feed them I've got to water them, and I don't really want to pour more water on a soggy pot. So this week there's a bit of rain, possibly tomorrow morning, and then we've got a relatively dry week, so give it a couple of days and then I should be able to get a good dose of feed on them and get them going. So, but they're growing well. I'm pleased with that. Most of the bonsai are looking good. So it's an enjoyable place to be. I just need to tidy that shed up. takes the edge right off the garden. We'll give it a go soon. And I spoke to Hannah when she was down at the weekend, and she agrees that for the investment, refelting the roof is worth doing, to just finish off the whole look of the garden. And she suggested that when I've done it, I take some pictures, send them to the agent and say I've taken it off my own back to actually finish the shed off by felting the roof, and I've painted it up and everything. It would be nice if the landlord could contribute to the cost, which was this, and see if I can get something out of the landlord. You never know. Blood out of a stone springs to mind. See you next time. Bye for now.